Third Eye High TV. We're going to take a closer look, people. We're going to take a look into the food industry, you know, because we really got to find out and investigate the foods that we are consuming, you know. Now, let's start with, you know, one of the biggest fast food chains around, you know, McDonald's, you know. And you really get to see that these people are driven by profit, you know, and they can care less what they are serving you. And it shows, you know, by the chemical ridden food that they, you know, serve you every day. Now right here we're looking at a hamburger, some chicken nuggets, and some fries. Now this is a 4-month study. They left this food out on the counter for 4 months, and as you can see, there's no mold on the bread. The hamburger didn't change colors. The nuggets, the fries, you know, didn't grow mold. You know, other than just the fries and the nuggets decreasing in value, they pretty much look as fresh as you bought them, you know. So you have to ask yourself, what's in the food that, you know, things aren't decomposing. So if they're not breaking down here on this counter, what's to say to the hamburger that you ate last month, you know? Did that break down in your system? And if not, what problems is it causing you, you know? So we're gonna take a real in-depth look in this video, and we're just gonna go into all the different meat industries and really give you the real, you know. I hope your third eye is open. So let's go.
Hi, my name is Jason Lai. Welcome to Clear Food, the world's first consumer guide to food based off of DNA analysis. We're going to test each food item, analyze it, and compare it back to the original label, which is our Clear score. 100 means that the original label is completely accurate. In our first report, we're going to take a look at the quintessential American backyard food, hot dogs. So let's go take a look. Clear Labs analyzed 345 samples of hot dogs and sausages from Safeway, Target, Trader Joe's, Walmart, and Whole Foods. Of those 345 samples, a whopping 14.4% were adulterated with substitution and hygienic issues. Substitution occurs when an ingredient is found in a product that isn't on the label. Hygienic issues occur when a non-harmful contaminant is introduced. In most cases, it's human DNA. 4 of the 21 vegetarian samples had hygienic issues, which is about 20%. Not only that, but some of the products exaggerated the amount of protein that they have by as much as 2.5 times. So when the packages claim 25 grams of protein, you're only getting 10 grams. What's up with that? Pork is a particularly unwelcome substitution when you consider that a significant number of people don't eat pork due to religious reasons. Clear Foods found pork substitution in about 3% of its samples. In most cases, pork was found in chicken and turkey sausages.
Pensaron que me estaba ahogando.
What Maria Gonzalez says she found in her food when she went to Lynn's buffet last Friday night made her lose her dinner.
Le vi la cola. I took a closer look and I saw its tail and I started throwing up.
You may not be able to tell what it is right away unless you pick it up.
Para que lo quieren ver, lo pueden ver aquí. Lo que viene en la comida. Para que se dé cuenta la gente.
Maria says what made her even more angry was the manager's reaction.
Me regresó mi dinero. He gave me my money back. He just wanted me to leave. I asked him for a to-go box and he said to just take the plate and leave.
Leave is what he wanted us to do as well as we interviewed Maria outside Lynn's buffet.
That's your problem.
I think you have a problem.
I mean, you don't know. You weren't sitting at the table, ma'am, so you don't know.
The manager went on to say the woman might have put the mouse on the food herself, but the crowd around us said they were witnesses. Lorena Gonzalez was about to enter the buffet when she realized what was happening.
It's a health issue that nobody's doing anything about it, that the managers just told us to leave, to not tell anybody.
That same night, I went inside the restaurant and asked for the owner, and I was told to leave once again. I looked into the restaurant and found out Lynn's Buffet has a long history of violations. According to the health department website, in a period of 8 months, Lynn's failed 6 unannounced inspections by food inspectors. Now, this weekend, food inspectors showed up after someone reported the mouse incident. Inspectors didn't find any presence of rodents, but Lynn's failed the routine inspection once again. They had to close for about several hours in order to correct those violations.
Just knowing that mice carry so many diseases, I mean, even if it's cooked and everything.
Mouse droppings and some dead roaches at this spot just off Cathedral Square in Milwaukee. New #1 Chinese restaurant in the 770 North Jefferson building in Easttown. We were here in 2009. Now this spot has a number of new violations and was fined for things like a cook handling raw meat and then touching customers' food without washing his hands. No soap at 2 of the sinks, and cooked meat in a cooler not kept cold enough. Is there somebody to talk to about your health inspection? I'm here from Channel 4.
Yeah.
About the violations.
Okay, yeah, but the owner not here.
We left a message for the owner asking about the raw marinated chicken sitting in a cooler above a tub of sauce. That's a cross-contamination risk. Plastic shopping bags being used to store food. And this, mouse droppings in a storage area and dead roaches in a hallway. We never heard back from the owner on the violations at new #1 Chinese. On your side, Courtney Garish, today's TMJ4.
Thank you, Courtney.
I have a guest by the name of Rabbi A.B. Finkelstein. He's off the east coast of the United States, who's going to be joining me tonight. Rabbi A.B. Finkelstein, as I said, a rabbi off the east coast of the United States. Are you there with me tonight?
Shalom, I am here.
There's a lot of rumors and conjecture that's taking place across this country relating to the Jewish population, okay?
Okay.
The masses have a hard time believing anything.
Well, we've done a great brainwashing job on them over the centuries, and especially the last few hundred years. We've just brainwashed them completely. They believe anything we tell them. And, in the meantime, we have a lot of fun around Passover where we steal the children. I mean, we steal 100 to 300,000 children a year just here in this country, and we drain the blood and we mix it with the Passover bread, and then we throw the bodies into the slaughterhouses that we own, and we grind up all the bodies in the sausage and the hamburger. McDonald's is one of our favorite outlets, and the people, they eat it for breakfast, they eat their children for lunch, and, as Jews, we gotta do what we do. It's over for you white race. So that's why I'm speaking so honestly here, to bring it out into the open so that you can see it for what it is. You've been teaching the people real good, but they don't wake up, do they? Because you know why? They're scared of us Jews, because they don't want to be called anti-Semites, and they believe that we're the chosen. And so that's why we can do whatever we want to do, and we can get away with it because the white men are cowards, and we go to the synagogue all the time and have some Manischewitz and dance the Hava Nagila.
It's not that you Jews are hiding anything. You're coming right out on television, in the newspapers, on the radio, and you're telling the people exactly what you're going to do before you do it, and they're brain dead.
Well, we did a good job with the public school system. We got you to put all of your children in there. You notice that the Jew doesn't put his children in there. They go to the Hebrew Academy where we teach them the real things, and then they go to the synagogue and they learn the real important things. But we send your kids to the public school. We even have you tax yourself from your property so that you never own your property. And so if you don't make your property tax, we're going to take your property. You can bet on that. And we have you put your kid in a 12-year babysitting is about all it does, because you don't learn anything. And then by that time, the kids, they get to be teenagers, and then we give them the music. Not that we really want to call it music, because, oy vey, that's not music. But they listen to that, and then they want to do what they want to do, and so we sell them drugs, and we make a lot of money off your children. Your children, from cradle to grave, All we do is make money off of them. Your cattle, your goyim, the human cattle. Mazel tov.
Well, that's very interesting. I understand that, but I also know the bloodletting. I know that on your Passover, which isn't mine, that a lot of little children do disappear, and I do know that, and I know police departments and agencies have been informed, but you're very open. You're very open tonight. I'm very surprised that you're talking about the bloodletting of the little children, that you put their blood in the matzah balls, and that you eat it on sacrifice on Passover.
Well, there was a goyim that wrote a book about it back in the 30s. I forget his name at the moment. But anyway, he wrote the book. People didn't buy the book. People don't want to listen. We've been doing this for thousands and thousands of years, since down to Adam's time. We take the children of our enemy, which is the white race, and we bring them to the basements in the synagogues, where we drain the blood and watch them die there. It's very similar to how we do the sacrifices that we do with the kosher butchering, and so we do that, and then we mix it with the Passover bread, and so we eat the blood of our enemies. And the bodies, we're not cannibals. So what we do is we take those, because we can make some shekels, and we give them to the slaughterhouses, and those are pounds and pounds and pounds of meat that we grind up in the sausage and the hamburger, and that's why we made those the most popular thing, sausage for breakfast and hamburger for lunch. And so all the goyim out here are really eating their children. And even when we say this outright and tell you people, you don't believe it. So that's your problem. But you, goyim out there, you never teach yourself. You don't self-teach. You're always looking for somebody else to do it for you.
Yeah, I know what you're thinking. This gotta be the craziest shit I've ever seen. Apparently, you're halfway through the video, so I'm gonna wow you a little bit later on after that. But this right here is a worm found in a kid's Happy Meal. You know, the parent mentioned that the child was having stomach aches after eating, and then they got very sick after this. You know, and you can read the article right here, and I'm sure you heard about like the pink slime, the plastic substance, whatever you want to call that shit, that they plump inside of the nuggets that people are eating. So blatantly, they're admitting that these foods are not real. I don't even want to use the term food anymore, but only food because it's the title of this video. But they're blatantly telling you that this stuff is not real food, and we are still consuming it. And right now, chicken nuggets are like $3 for 20 of them. When I was a kid, when I was still eating meat, you know, it used to be like maybe $10 for a 20 piece. You know, now it's like $2 for 20 nuggets. A dollar, might be $1 for 100 of them now. This stuff isn't real food, so they gotta keep selling you this crap, dropping the price, and you feel like you're saving, and they're killing you at a more faster rate. And this is real right here. This is a parasite inside this nugget. And as you seen early on in the video, you seen the cheeseburger, the fries, the nuggets that were laid out for 4 months, and nothing changed the color or anything. I wonder why. This probably was full of worms. You know, the worms were probably the only thing living inside these things. But it's time that we wake up. I'm gonna just keep it going and, you know, get into a little bit more of this. Is food killing us? That is the question. As I said, they put it right in front of us. FDA finally admits chicken meat contains cancer-causing arsenic. So they put it publicly, make it public knowledge, and we ignore it. Proof is in the pudding. as Bill Cosby would say. But as you see, they put it out there in our face. They let us know, and we say it's a conspiracy. We go this and that. You know, when the truth comes out, and we still argue amongst ourselves, even though they're putting it on the record to let you know, yeah, we killing you. Yeah, we doing all this to the food. Yeah, we put poison in the food. Why we put poison in it? Nah, it's not gonna kill you, but it's healthy poison. I've never heard of healthy poison. Maybe the free flu shots that they give you at the pharmacy. You know, like they would charge you for a 5 cent, cough drop, but they'll give you a free flu shot. I don't think it's anything in there beneficial for you if it's free.
Processed meat, Bobby, is a scary thing. And that's not to mention what else they put in it to preserve it. They actually put a color fixer chemical in the processed meat to turn it red so that you'll buy it.
So it's not just naturally red because it came from the inside of a cow. They're putting colored dye and...
It's not dye. It's a chemical that is a preservative and a color fixer, and it turns the meat red. Otherwise, the meat would look putrid gray.
Americans want quick, cheap, convenient food. And if you look at the ingredient list on something like this, it's actually kind of scary. It starts off with high fructose corn syrup. And then the bologna is made from mechanically separated chicken and pork and corn syrup and modified food starch.
So chicken, pork, and syrup.
Yum.
I'm hungry too, Dave. Let's grab a burger.
If you go buy a piece of processed meat, like sandwich meat, for example, at the grocery store, it may have been on that shelf for 3 or 4 weeks. It should be gray. People wouldn't buy it. They'd be sickened by it. So they use a chemical called sodium nitrite or sodium nitrate. This chemical, the USDA tried to ban this chemical in the 1970s. They were unsuccessful because of food industry lobbyists. It's still legal, and by the way, it causes cancer. It is such a powerful carcinogenic chemical that it belongs to a class of chemicals called nitrosamines that lab researchers actually inject into mice when they want to give them cancer so they can study the cancer.
Well, what's the name of this?
Sodium nitrite or sodium nitrate. It's listed right on the label, Bobby.
So we can look at lunch meat and we can tell if it's on there or not.
Yeah. So they're eating cancer because it makes the meat look pretty.
You know, when we think about the danger, the food safety danger, because of, if one sick animal gets processed and that meat gets mixed around, that muscle or fat gets mixed around, it can really cause a problem with the whole food system.
If they're putting antibiotics, if they're putting hormones in these sick cows to make them better, what is that going to do to me?
Turn to the massive recall of ground beef, growing tonight with new questions, not just about hamburgers in restaurants, but possibly grocery stores. And what about the meat in your freezer? Our Dr. Richard Besser is one of the country's experts on food safety, and he traveled to Washington, D.C. to get answers.
Health officials are on high alert. The recall expanded, now including beef sent to restaurants and possibly grocery stores. The biggest worry? Ground beef for burgers. Because grilling season is here, and people often don't cook them enough to kill this dangerous strain of E. coli, which has already sickened 11 people.
I've never been that sick before in my life.
Kevin McDermott thinks he's one. Diagnosed with the same strain of E. coli behind tonight's recall after eating an undercooked hamburger. Forced to spend 10 days in the hospital, describing the pain.
A hot knife in your guts, or battery acid.
It can take up to 10 days before symptoms appear. And not only can it make you sick for a full week, it can lead to kidney failure, even death. So did you eat or buy the bad beef? Well, the federal government is investigating, and it's going to disclose any names of retailers impacted. But they're still going through reams of paper, trying to sort out where it went.
No one's mentioned what restaurants.
Yes, that's right. That's right. No one has mentioned the restaurants yet.
Why is that? There could be people out there who ate there and were sick, but don't realize they could have a serious infection.
I think those people will eventually know.
Doesn't the public have a right to know what restaurants serve this beef?
They will know at some point where the meat was distributed. 11 illnesses is 11 too many in my book, but we did prevent a larger recall by our quick action.
Regulations prohibit the USDA from telling us which restaurants are impacted, and that really needs to change. But for now, there's great advice from the USDA. When you're in a restaurant, always order your burger well done. And at home, remember, keeping beef in the freezer doesn't kill E. coli. You still have to cook it through to 160 degrees, nothing else.
But can you see when you've cooked it enough, Rich, to 160 degrees? Is there any way to tell visually?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's hard. You should use that thermometer. If you don't have one, cut it in half. Make sure at the least that it's brown all the way through.
All right, Richard Besser weighing in tonight. Thanks so much.
Consumer news tonight: when it comes to meat, the USDA seal is required to prove that the meat has been inspected by a federal agency.
But what many consumers may not know is that some meat has actually been treated with carbon monoxide gas in order to keep it looking fresh for weeks. Kitty Pilgrim has more.
Red, fresh meat, or is it? Congressional hearings pointed to the pitfalls of treating meat with carbon monoxide.
Treating meat with carbon monoxide allows the meat to keep its freshly ground red color, even though the meat may have spoiled. I have a picture on the screen. There's 2 packages of ground meat that were left out at room temperature for 27 hours. You can see the one which was treated with carbon monoxide looks fresh and red, while the other meat has turned brown and quite nasty looking.
Congressman Stupak and Congressman Ed Markey have introduced legislation that would require meat treated with carbon monoxide to be labeled so the consumer would know. According to the industry, 2/3 of all meat and chicken is no longer cut by a butcher in front of customers or in back of the supermarket case. Now, pre-packaged, case-ready meat is prepared off-site at large distributors and then shipped to supermarkets. The carbon monoxide treatment keeps meat looking fresh in that process. Food experts say a pound of ground beef cut by a butcher goes brown in 4 to 5 days. But meat treated with carbon monoxide by a meat packer can stay looking fresh for weeks. It's the same with imported seafood. Congressman Stupak says his subcommittee tested seafood from China and Vietnam treated with carbon monoxide. 20% turned out to be bad and was refused.
It's a problem because consumers aren't informed about how meat is treated. The meat is being treated with chemicals so that it's going to look like it's fresher than it is. I think consumers have a right to know how fresh their meat is.
Industry representatives of large meat packers say the additive is harmless, and it's easy to tell when the product goes bad. Kitty Pilgrim, CNN.
Dirty little secret, dirty little secret, dirty little secret. Who has to know? Who has to
God, that's probably the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. If you can't handle worms, blood, and disgusting parasites, turn off now, seriously. So here we have some medical footage of some dude who was complaining of some pain in his stomach area. And yeah, that's the reason why. Now, it's not from uncooked pasta. That is not spaghetti there. What you're seeing is intestinal worms. And that includes whipworms, ringworms, tapeworms, hookworms, and all sorts of different parasites humans can get in their intestines. And I'm just going to tell you straight up, the science says for these worms to live, to survive, need meat, dairy, eggs, fish, etc. They need animal protein. And like most Americans, these types of worms will survive in human intestines. And oh my gosh, that is freaking disgusting. I would not want that rotting in my freaking colon, man. I mean, a lot of people ask me why I'm 100% vegan and why I don't include just a little bit of animal products in my diet. And this is why. This is why I am terrified of these things. I want to minimize my chances of getting these little fuckers as much as I can. I mean, call it animal cruelty, but if you want to get rid of these guys, you have to go vegan and starve these guys to death, basically. Just giving them high carbohydrate plant-based foods. So this is basically what came out of just that one guy's colon, what looks to be about 10 pounds of intestinal worms. So if you're taking advice from those big bodybuilding type of guys who say you need to eat a lot of animal protein to build muscle, think twice about doing that. Think of the consequences that have to come with that and all the diseases and intestinal parasites that a person can host from all these animal-based foods. So these worms definitely need a very acidic environment to survive. So once you start eating plant-based foods, your body actually becomes more alkaline and you're less susceptible to being a host for these types of parasites. So basically, if you have intestinal worms, the standard procedure is medication, and sometimes if they get big enough is operations like this. So it's just like passing by roadkill and you see those worms eating up the animals. That's exactly what it is. And you know, think about it. I mean, if you're eating lots of meat, lots of dairy, eggs, fish, etc., those foods take a long time to digest. So they're inside your long digestive system for a long time. What do you think is going to happen? They're going to start to decompose like they do out on the road, and you're going to start developing these worms. Now, I know it's disgusting, but these worms are actually saving your life. I mean, all that animal food in your colon is starting to rot and produce toxins, so these worms are basically helping you, kind of like cleaning you up in there. So if you're eating all of these animal-based foods, I really hope that changes your mind and gives you a different perspective. I mean, these foods are dangerous. They not only promote diseases and cancers, but also infections like these. So get on a high-carbohydrate plant-based program. Eat lots of fruits and vegetables, not only to make your body alkaline, but also to have regular bowel movements so you can start flushing those parasites out. These worms do not do well on plant-based foods, so stop feeding them, start feeding yourself. And I'm going to take my chances with a protein deficiency and stick with plants. Thanks for watching.
The tapeworm, or Cestoda, is a parasitic segmented flatworm known for invading vertebrate animals and living inside their intestines. This includes humans. They can reach up to 26 feet long and can live up to 30 years inside one particular host. Tapeworm infections are caused by ingesting undercooked meat prepared in poor hygienic conditions. The most common intermediate hosts are pigs, cows, and marine life, so therefore transmission to humans often occurs from eating infested pork, beef, and fish. Once a tapeworm finds its way into your system, it uses its 4 suckers and 2 rings of hooks to anchor itself to the walls of your intestine. It then proceeds to steal all nutrients for itself by absorbing whatever food passes its way through your intestines. So no matter how much you eat, death will occur due to starvation and malnourishment. In addition, the tapeworm can also make its way into your brain, causing death through seizures and other neurological problems. Some tapeworm infections may never require treatment, as a tapeworm will sometimes exit the body on its own through defecation. Other cases will require medicines such as praziquantel or albendazole. Some physicians may also require the patient to undergo enema treatment in order to completely remove the flatworm from your system.
So this is a patient who had come to me with severe eye pain. He had been to many places and used many drops, but then there was no relief of his pain. So when he came
this
to
right
us,
here, as you see, is a
and I happened to
worm
look inside his
parasite
eye, I saw
in
something white
someone's
moving
eye. And as
inside
you can
there.
see right now, you
So
know,
watch
the
closely in this
patient
patient's
is
eye.
alive. You know what I'm saying? The
There is
eyeball
a
is
silvery
moving.
shiny
They might got him
object
sedated or
inside the
something.
patient's
But
eye.
as you see this clear,
Now when the
glowing,
nurse with
like
the cotton bud
squishy
touches
shit right here in the bottom of the eye.
there is
Now,
some
you
exaggerated
might
movement.
think that might be, you know, pus or
And it
something
looks
like that.
like
That's an
oils
actual parasite. He's
inside
going to
the eye.
pull it out of his
This
fucking
can
eye.
mean only one thing.
And when you see how long
There is some
this thing is,
living
you know what I'm
object
saying, that's
inside
been
the eye
living in this person's
that
eye.
looks
You know, it
and
traveled
behaves
throughout the
like a
body.
worm.
And this is the product of, you
Now
know,
we have to
the
make
food
sure
that you're
that this is
consuming. And
indeed
these
a worm.
things, you know, inhabit your body.
If
And,
it
you know what I'm
is a
saying,
worm,
they live, you know,
it
and
in
they
all
grow.
likelihood
But this right here is some, you know,
escape
if
to other parts of the
you're
body
not
the moment
one of
we
the
touch it
graphic
or
type, you
interfere
know what I'm
with it.
saying, you're not ready for this,
So to
you
prevent
got a
that,
weak stomach, I would
now the
suggest, you
nurse
know,
has
you take a bathroom break, come
barred its
back.
posterior
But this right here is
movement
crazy. Look
with
at
a
this
cotton
shit.
bud. Now the cotton bud has to be placed at least near the center of where the worm's body is. That will prevent the worm from sliding back into the eye and behind into the brain. Now I've made an opening into the conjunctiva, which is not the seeing part of the eye. This is only the white portion of the eye. Now we can see some white cylindrical tubes likely to be a worm. I'm pulling that out, and you'll be astounded to see the length of this worm. And mind you, it is a live worm. You can see the head moving. Now I'm trying to untangle it and pull it out, but I feel that the distal part, that means the end part of it, has got caught somewhere in the eye. Now I'll be putting the rest of the worm back into the eye, or onto the eye, not into the eye, in the hope that it will relieve itself from the eye. Now watch carefully as the worm starts wriggling out of the eye. Now it has wriggled free from the eye, and I can see both the ends. And this is the time I know that it is not going to go anywhere else. It is going to be here, and I have all the time in the world to take it out. And I can be reasonably sure that no part of the worm is now going to remain inside the patient's eye. Now I've taken it out, goes into a glass bottle for safekeeping. Now all that remains to be done now is reassure the patient that I have taken out everything, and then close that tiny wound. It does not require any sutures because it's a very tiny wound and heal itself within 24 hours. What we have seen just now is a worm that was living inside a human eye. Now we have successfully managed to take it out. Not all people are so lucky. It can escape our attention also. Now the important thing about this worm is, in recorded history, in video history, this is the largest worm ever recorded. This is 8 inches long. And the previous recorded worm was 5 inches long. Now how did...
This is crazy. This movie is crazy. Now, if you ain't convinced by now, you know, as you see these parasites and these worms being pulled out of people's body, and they're still living. Now, right here you see a girl with a worm in her lip. I didn't even know that was possible. You know, I didn't know that the eye was possible. I didn't know that the parasites could be in your lip. But here it is. This girl's getting a worm, maybe about 7 to 8 centimeters pulled out of her lip. Stay tuned. This is some crazy stuff. Is food killing us? That's the question of the day.
Vira a borboleta, então. Vira a outra. Coitada dessa garota, meu Deus. Tô indo. Mas agora é só você aguentar. Porque você tem que ver o bicho feio que tá saindo daí. Calma.
Bom que agora vai acabar. O bicho não quer largar não, hein?
Até no pronto-socorro foi.
This is the Third Eye High channel. Like I said, we're gonna bring all the facts to you. We're gonna bring the truth, you know. And if your third eye is high, you're gonna be receptive to this information. Now we're gonna dig deeper into, you know, the whole concept of this parasite, you know, living in the body, and what does it do to the brain when it's in the body. So let's take a closer look.
In the diagnosed cases of pork tapeworm, the victim has cysts inside the brain. And when you have a cyst in your brain, very bad things can happen. You can have seizures, coma, hallucinations, or possibly even death.
The pork tapeworm has 2 hosts, humans and pigs. The parasite forms cysts in the tissues of a pig. If a human eats undercooked pork that contains the cysts, they get infected. In the human gut, the cysts hatch into adult tapeworms, where they can grow up to several meters long. The adult worms lay eggs that are passed in human feces. If a pig then eats the feces, the eggs grow into cysts in its muscle tissue, and the life cycle repeats.
Where sanitation is not very good, this parasite can be very common. In some parts of the world, up to 6% of the population harbor this parasite.
In most cases, humans get the parasite by eating contaminated pork. but a few get infected when they come in contact with egg-laden human feces.
If you eat undercooked pork, you end up with the tapeworm in your gut. But if you eat the eggs that have been passed out in feces, then you can end up with the cysts in your tissues, and that can be a lot worse.
The only way to kill the parasite is with a powerful drug called albendazole, which starves it to death. The pork tapeworm is one of the most common parasites to affect humans. It infects over 50 million people worldwide. The best way to avoid it is to wash your hands before and after handling food. And if you eat pork, make sure that it's cooked all the way through.
One of the reasons that the pork tapeworm is so nasty is that once it forms a cyst inside the brain, it's almost impossible to kill.
Industry-wide secret butchers don't want you to know about. Major suppliers have been caught using a special product known as meat glue to stick together scraps of meat to sell as prime cuts. But while this product has been banned overseas, there's no law prohibiting its use here. Here's Rodney Lowe's with this special investigation.
It's the meat industry's dirty secret, a way of turning the scraps too small to sell as a premium steak back into a juicy, plump eye fillet to sell for a premium price. So clever, you'll never tell. Not even an expert can.
Before, you didn't even pick that as a join, though, did you?
It doesn't even tear through the joint. A bit hard to tell, isn't it?
Butcher James Faulkner runs Queensland Natural Beef Company, an organisation dedicated to using as few additives in meat from paddock to plate as possible. But tonight, he's exposing how some parts of the industry are able to trick their customers and use whatever it takes.
Yeah. I've just got some fine diced beef and my special enzyme. I'm just going to mix it up a bit.
Why have we got the masks on?
This is dangerous. See that? Don't breathe that in.
This powder is transglutamase enzyme, otherwise known as meat glue. Meat glues come in a number of forms, some produced by cultivating bacteria, the others, the primary ingredient comes from the blood plasma of pigs and cattle, specifically the coagulant which causes blood to clot. In the food industry, it has amazing properties.
So just got a little bit here, about a teaspoonful.
Yep.
Just over the top like that. And with our gloves on, of course, we mix it up.
Then roll it in plastic film and refrigerate. 6 hours later, you have a solid piece of meat.
And essentially, you've got a reborn, rebirthed thigh fillet.
More or less, yeah.
Ours uncooked is easy to spot the difference, but cooked is another story.
Okay, so the meat glue one is on the right, and the real McCoy is on the left.
And it's not just beef. Pork, lamb, fish and chicken are all stuck back together using this glue.
It looks like one piece of chicken.
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
Yep.
But hard to tell, isn't it?
Particularly that.
On the grill, it's even harder to pick.
So that's the real McCoy. Give this a burl. Nice and tender, nicely salted. All right, let's go for the meat glue. I can't tell the difference.
Pretty good, but potentially dangerous.
I've sort of got two concerns. One that is well publicised, which is misleading people. The other area is the microbial side.
It's why the European Union moved to ban meat glue in May last year. Microbiologist Glenn Pinner.
If this food is sold or represented as a solid piece of steak and you cook it rare, you're really leaving yourself open to get food poisoning.
Once you glue two pieces together, it's difficult to cook thoroughly those parts that were on the outside but are now on the inside.
The amount of bacteria on a steak that has been put together with meat glue is hundreds of times higher.
We had no idea how guarded a secret this was until we started contacting restaurateurs and butchers to ask them about the use of meat glue. Many of them didn't want to speak for fear of upsetting their suppliers, creating bad blood in an industry that has become very clever at using this product.
Are you just shaking your head?
A little bit. It's unbelievable, isn't it?
This cube roll we bought from a wholesaler that produces stuck-together steaks en masse. Their effort's so good, James, our butcher, couldn't tell even when it was raw. It's even harder in the restaurant, which are some of the biggest users of glued meat. And chances are, unless you're a vegetarian, you're eating it on a regular basis. But with current labelling laws, neither butchers nor your local eatery have to tell you you're eating chicken glued together with cow's blood or beef held together by pig. It's the same reason they can take low-grade meat and pump it with water and flavour to make it edible.
Okay, so just after about a minute or two, we've got quite a lot of moisture out of there. And we've lost almost half a kilo.
Then the practice of selling mutton as lamb and old cow as prime cut beef. Like this. So old, a meat grader said it was only good for pet mints.
You've got yellow fat colour, really dark meat colour. It's definitely off a really old type of animal.
In New South Wales, new labelling regulations have just been introduced to help consumers choose quality meat, but it's not compulsory. So for most of us, picking a quality piece of meat is still a shot in the dark.
Here's what the GMO animals look like today in 2016. You got to get a closer look right here, because if you look right here and you see this, you see this cow. This is the result of the GMO, the chemicals and everything they're putting in the animals to produce them faster, to make, bigger animals. Where you think them big burgers coming from? Those bigger steaks, you know what I'm saying, and everybody want, and it's like you thinking you're getting more of a healthier product, and this is the product that you're actually getting. It's not the cow that you used to see in the storybooks. This is what the cow look like today. And this is a crazy sight right now. This is 2016. This is the time that we're living in. Is the food that we're eating killing us? That's what I really want to know. So let's move on to the next animal. This right here is the pig. This is a GMO pig right here. It's crazy right here. As you see the GMO pigs right here. You see what happened to the stomach of the GMO pigs. You see they're altering these animals and we're consuming these animals. So now usually we have the alteration going on inside our bodies. This is a very serious dynamic that we got to deal with. And this is what you want to have for dinner. This is what you got on your plate. Like we got to really take a closer look. We're not supposed to be consuming these animals, period. And especially not these Frankenstein animals. Let's wake up, yo. Let's wake up. Get your third eye high. And it's crazy, as you see right here, we have the genetically modified salmon. A lot of people think that, they switch off some of the meats and then you see that you're eating the salmon. And the salmon is, genetically modified, So now you're not even eating real fish, So like you have to take a real closer look. And this is what happens, look at the destruction, that they're doing to the animals, as you can see. And this is, the same destruction they're doing to us because we're consuming these animals, and this is at total disregard, and unbeknownst to the public, we're just thinking that, maybe a person that stops eating meat, maybe they're bashing the people that's eating meat, but it's more so about taking a closer look at the whole meat industry and if it's even really meat that we're eating, So just to keep your third eye high, and take a closer look. it's time that we really take a closer look at the foods that we're consuming. Is food killing us? Now, when you really get to see the picture of how these animals really look in 2016 in real time after being GMO infused. Now, if you see these animals and you want to consider this food, what happens to the food that you put in your stomach? If you see how the animal looks, I just can only imagine what these chemicals can do once they're in our body. So it's time to wake up, people. Let's get that third eye hot. And I can't leave the chicken lovers out. Those that can't put down a wing, that they continue to consume, even though, they hear that they're cloning these chickens and, they're genetically modified, so on and so forth. But if you like KFC, you like Popeyes, you like all these places that are deep frying mutated animals, then you continue to patronize these businesses that are serving you poison. It's time to wake up. And this right here is KFC's chicken. Does that look like chicken to you? Who would eat that? I wonder why it's always on sale. Crazy. This right here is McDonald's. They just done fried the whole head of the chicken and threw it in the box. This how they treat you. This how they treat the customer. And I wonder why everything in McDonald's is on sale. You have to take a closer look. All these things are hand in hand with each other. You see the prices drop on the food. You see people getting sick. They don't know why they're getting sick. But then the prices drop on the food. You eat more of the food. More people are getting sick. People are getting cancer. All these things. You have to see the connection, people. You are what you eat, as the old saying goes.